So, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware, obviously, the wildfires here in California. For those of you guys who don't know, I live in SoCal. And before anybody asks, I am safe. I'm not anywhere near the fires, to be honest. For a while there, because of the winds, we had some poor air quality, which is kind of the reason why I have this like lingering cough that's still sticking around. But we had some poor air quality and stuff. There was like some ash and smoke blowing into our area, but I wasn't anywhere near the actual fires. So I am safe before anybody asks. But in any case, the wildfires have been something very insane. It's pretty common, at least for the last couple decades or so, for us to experience wildfires here in California due to the winds, and we have a lot of dry brush and stuff like that that's easy to catch flame. But this year, by far, has been the worst when it comes to the wildfires. Now, at the time of this recording, because I am a little late to covering this topic, I wanted to cover it for you guys a lot sooner, and I just didn't get around to it. At the time of this recording, the fires are in a lot better position now as far as containment is concerned than they were when I initially planned to cover this topic. So we are a little late to this topic here, but for the most part, it's still an ongoing battle that firefighters are still dealing with. Obviously, people's lives are being immensely affected by this. Like it's devastating. So many families have lost their homes. Some people have lost their lives, experienced injuries, etc. It's been awful, to say the least. Having said that, I do want to get into something that took place during this whole ordeal, because right now, obviously, the main concern that everybody should be having in regards to these fires is, the people who are being affected by them. How are we going to help these people, get rehomed? People that need to be evacuated, how are we going to help them get evacuated? How are we going to provide aid to the people that are being affected? That's what should be most important here. But soon to be in office President Donald Trump, of course, had to make this a divisive issue, which is really funny considering this is the guy who said when he comes into office, he wants to, no longer divide the nation. He wants to unite us all together. And before he's even in office, he's making an issue of people's lives being affected by these devastating fires, turning them into a very divisive issue. So I wanted to take a look at this, see what he had to say about the fires. So let's dive into it. Here we go.
This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire.
So he's instantly just blaming it on Governor Gavin Newsom, which, by the way, I'm not the biggest fan of Gavin Newsom. I'm not always like a fan of like the way he does things. Like, for example, during COVID, when we had the lockdowns, I don't necessarily mind the lockdowns per se. Anything at the time that would reduce the spread of the virus was good, I think. But there was a lot of like special treatment given to like certain industries, like Hollywood, for example. We had instances, I vividly remember like videos of like businesses that were closed because of, COVID and everything like that. And these business owners, they were obviously being very negatively impacted financially by the closures of their businesses. But having said that, in those same areas where the businesses were closed, they had Hollywood productions taking place where like people were renting out streets to film movies and stuff like that. And I very vividly remember there was like a video of like a bar owner who was like, I'm not allowed to open my bar to survive here and make a living, but these people are out here, filming movies and stuff like that. And it just didn't seem fair. So, I don't full on hate Gavin Newsom per se, but I'm not a big fan either, if that makes sense. But in any case, he's instantly blaming the wildfires on Gavin Newsom.
Fire hydrants. They don't have water. And yet they have, the water comes from, where? Up north. And it comes down at levels, they get millions and millions of barrels of gallons of water that they have, and they send it out into the Pacific. For the Pacific, it's like a drop. It's nothing.
Jamie Wood in the chat, Trump will save TikTok. We're talking about wildfires and people losing their lives and people losing their homes and stuff like that. And your concern right now is TikTok? Are you for real?
But for California, it would take care of the whole state. So what's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job. With that being said, I got along well with him. when he was governor. We worked together very well, and we would work together. I guess it looks like we're going to be...
Oh, let me spend like a minute here just shitting on you and saying that you're doing a terrible job. Oh, but we got along really well. We got along perfectly well.
Having to rebuild it. But what happened there, I don't think there's anything that I've ever seen quite like it. And the insurance companies are going to have a big problem, because you're talking about big...
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm concerned about here. I'm definitely concerned about the evil insurance companies. You know, they're going to have a big problem. Oh, my heart goes out to the insurance companies, chat. Dear Lord.
Big dollars.
Okay, so that's what he had to say, basically blaming the whole thing on Gavin Newsom. So there was this infamous clip that is just like big chat energy from Gavin Newsom. This reporter asked Gavin Newsom, hey, you know, did you hear what Trump had to say about you? And this was his response, which I think is just mega giga chat energy.
Even asked this question, but the president-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
It's one can't even respond to it. I mean, it's people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families.
I know, like, can you imagine trying to take the dumb shit that Donald Trump says seriously while you're standing in a neighborhood where everything around you is on fire? Like, literally there's a building, looks like somebody's home or something like that, burning in the background. And, like, you're being asked what, like, you think about Donald Trump's dumb comments made towards you. Like, it's ridiculous.
Completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to...
Ladies, you bet Trump, California doesn't have water because of a drought. Clearly, that's the governor's fault and not global warming. Exactly. Right? But remember, global warming's a hoax, though. That's not a real thing.
Politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't. I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden. And he had the...
See, that's the interesting thing. Say what you want to say about, like, Joe Biden and Gavin Newsom, right? I'm sure there's lots of valid criticism to be had for both of them. But at the end of the day, who was down there actually surveying the scene and trying to come up with solutions for this ongoing problem? Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden. Like, they were there. Meanwhile, like, Donald Trump is, you know... in another part of the country, basically throwing like verbal bars at them. It's just like, okay, like what are you doing? And I know what the conservatives are going to say. He's not in office yet. Well, at the time of this recording, in a couple days, he's going to be inaugurated into office. So he should be planning how he's going to help tackle these issues as opposed to just pointing fingers at other politicians. How is he going to fix the problem when he gets into office? We haven't heard a whole lot of that, just a whole lot of him pointing finger at other people for what's going on here in California.
Backs of every single person in this community didn't play politics, didn't try to divide any of us.
Finally, your message even asked this question, but the president-elect...
Okay, so that's a clip right there. There was also an extended interview. We're not going to watch the full thing, but I have a timestamp pulled up of what I want to comment on. So here we go.
With this climate, and we've got to own up to that.
I was the pool reporter with you back in 2018 after the Woolsey fire when you came and visited with President Trump and then Governor Brown. I know you just put out a letter asking President-elect Trump to come here. What's your main message to him?
Well, two things. By the way, I was just reviewing the...
By the way, this video is from 7 days ago. Does anybody know if he's actually gone out yet? You know, because we know Biden's been there. Obviously, Gavin Newsom has been out there. Has Trump gone out to like actually survey the scene as far as the fires are concerned yet? I did try to do a quick Google search before the stream to see if I could find any videos or anything of him actually there. I didn't find any. So as far as it seems, it doesn't look like he's been out there. But Joe Biden and Gavin Newsom have. So, ladies, you had saying he has not. How am I not shocked?
After action report for the Woolsey fire as well. And the lessons learned after every single one of these incidents, we do an objective analysis, what went right, what went wrong, but based on fact, not politicalization, not conjecture or misinformation. To whip my response to your question. I'd like the President of the United States, at least the President-elect, to come and visit. The people out here, his lives have been completely torn apart.
Zubat says Trump doesn't care. Remember when Paradise got burned to the ground, he kept calling it by the wrong name. Yeah, that's Donald Trump for you. That's That's the guy the American people elected for another 4 fucking years. Oh joy, I'm so excited.
Want him to visit and understand the magnitude of this scope and what happened to the American people that happen to reside here in California. And it's with an open hand, not
You could probably smell the sarcasm through the fucking screen.
closed fist, and I'm not interested in politicizing an event like this. I don't like the banality of it. I don't like the inhumanity of that. I would like people to focus on a collaboration between the executive in Washington, D.C. and in the state of California to help rebuild a community that's been completely ravaged.
We know we've seen some public back and forth, but have you two talked about this?
No.
And have you reached out to him?
I just reached out today, specifically.
So he just doesn't care. He literally just doesn't care. He wants to flap his jaws about how, you know, Gavin Newsom's doing all the wrong things and Joe Biden's doing all the wrong things, but he's doing nothing. And again, like I said, I understand conservatives, like, because I saw this on Twitter when I tweeted about these situations. And all the conservatives that responded to me is, he's not in office yet. He's not in office yet. Right, but don't you want to hear him talk about what he's going to at least try to do to tackle these issues when he gets into office? Like I said, at the time of this recording, it's 2 days until his inauguration. 2 fucking days. He will be in office in 2 days. Okay? And he hasn't even commented on how he intends to deal with these issues. It's insanity.
Correct.
And he's not returning your call.
I just reached out to the President of the United States. We invited him to come here. I worked very well, as you know. You made that point as it relates to the Woolsey fire and the Camp Fire when we first met, ironically. We worked very well during COVID. And so that's my intention, has been from day one. We've said 100 times, open hand, not a closed fist. We're also not naive. And I think we have all the evidence in the world that bears fruit to the notion that we're not naive to prepare for a different reality, a radically different reality compared to what we just experienced in the last few days. You had a major disaster declaration that was done within 36 hours of this fire, which is extraordinary and unprecedented. You had 100% commitment on reimbursement for folks. You got a president that's just today is trying to figure out loose ends as it relates to significant work we do on infrastructure and parks and playgrounds and schools, and that will be an announcement we hope we can make in a matter of hours. I'm not interested in the theater of political consternation. That's what he's interested in.
Yeah, and that's all this is to him. Like, for him, politics is the the real world equivalent of like internet blood sports, where people just, talk shit about each other, and they like get in like dramatic like arguments or whatever. Like, that's what Trump thinks of politics and the world of politics. He doesn't actually give a shit about actually doing anything that benefits the people. He just wants to do whatever he can to bring more attention to himself. Like, it's insane.
And I think it's pretty shameful, personally, but it shouldn't extend beyond.
My theory is Trump knew his relevance was fading fast, so he ran for president so that way he could force as many people as possible to respect him. I don't know if that's necessarily like the motivation of like why he ran for president. I just think that he likes any excuse to get attention onto him, whether it's because he's the president, whether it's because he's like, taking swipes at other businessmen. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, any way he could get attention on himself and get his followers to like simp for him, like, that's what he does. It doesn't matter.
This, I want to turn the page. I think everyone does.
And just to be clear, when you're talking about a president, now you're talking about President Biden, because we're going back and forth between the two presidents.
I'm talking about the current president of the United States that's done everything right without asking for anything in return, without leverage anything, with decency and respect to the people here in this community and to the American people, and I think in the spirit of this country.
And just lastly on that, I know President Biden is trying to set this up where we get funding for the next 6 months. Are you concerned that President-elect Trump may try to stop that?
Well, you should be. We all should be.
Glitchmaster, he also wanted to avoid jail time. I mean, yeah, we saw that where he got it basically signed into law, where like presidents are immune to any kind of repercussions for criminal actions or whatever. Like, he made sure that got done before he left office the last time, so that now as he's coming into office this time, basically everything he was already on the hook for, he doesn't have to like suffer anything from it. Like, what was it? Was it the hush money case? They convicted him in that case, but then they discharged it so he doesn't have to face any repercussions for it. Like, it was like, yeah, you're convicted. You're a convicted felon or whatever, but you don't have to do any time for your crime. It's ridiculous.
It passed its prologue. So let's do everything in our power to avoid that. I mean, it's the idea that you had to ask that question, and I'm giving you a straight answer, and the answer is we should be concerned. It's obvious to anyone. So that's why we want to come out here. Do the right thing. I just want to move on.
All right, I want to listen to this whole interview, but if you guys want to check out the rest of this, I'll link it in the chat. Simp. Yo, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the super chat. I'll read it after the segment. But yeah, if you guys want to check out this, if it'll let me paste it. Can I paste it now? Can I do that, please? It's not letting me. That's weird. Okay, there we go. All right, there it is in the chat if you guys want to check out the rest of it. But like, here is Trump going on and on and on and on and on about this nonsense about how everybody's doing everything wrong in regards to these fires. But meanwhile, he hasn't proposed any solutions of his own. What is Trump doing during all of this? Well, he's doing stupid shit like this.
The same thing with Mexico. We have a massive deficit with Mexico, and we help Mexico a lot. They're essentially run by the cartels, and can't let that happen. Mexico's really in trouble, a lot of trouble. Very dangerous place. And we're going to be announcing a future date pretty soon. We're going to change, because we do most of the work there and it's ours. We're going to be changing, sort of the opposite of Biden, where he's closing everything up, essentially getting rid of $50 to $60 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
That's a pressing issue for Donald Trump. Renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Never mind all the stupid shit that he's saying right now about Greenland and Canada and Mexico and all that shit. This is what's important to Donald Trump right now. And I see Lady Zubat in the chat says, the Gulf of how the fuck does this lower the price of groceries? About them groceries. I want to show you this clip too. Because remember, for many Americans, this was the main issue that they voted for him for. Let's take a look at this real quick. Hold on, chat. Let's take a look at this.
President-elect Trump taking a victory lap on Wall Street, ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange after being named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. But just days after sharing this assessment about the election with NBC's Kristen Welker.
I want on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries.
In his interview with Time, the president-elect backed off his central campaign promise to lower prices for consumers.
You hear that, chat? You hear that? This was the main reason. When we talked about my previous coverage, because I did some coverage previously about, what were my thoughts on why the election was lost by the Dems. And my logic was, you have to remember that the average, voter in America, not like people who are very politically, motivated or very politically involved or very politically, we're very interested in politics, like myself or some of the people watching right now, that keep up on all this stuff. The main thing that matters to the average American is, how are you going to make sure that more money stays in my wallet? How are you going to bring down the cost of rent? How are you going to bring down the cost of goods? How are you going to lower taxes, et cetera, et cetera? These are the things that matter to the average American. And the harsh reality of Kamala Harris's campaign is they didn't comment on that hardly at all. Okay, they didn't comment on that hardly at all. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, who we know is a fucking liar, and will say, he'll promise you the moon and back in order to get elected and not deliver on all of it. We know he's full of shit, right? Politically savvy. Thank you. Lightsaber 360. That's a good word. Politically active, politically astute. We got some good feedback in the chat. Thank you so much. But we know that Donald Trump was full of shit, okay? But when you're the average normie who's not as politically active and politically savvy as the rest of us, again, thank you, chatters, for bringing up those terms, you're just listening for whoever's telling you what you want to hear, okay? And if one side isn't really commenting on the high price of groceries right now, and the other side is saying, I will lower the price of your groceries, who are you going to vote for if you don't know any better? You're going to vote for that guy, okay? So that's why Trump won the election. Unfortunately, the Kamala Harris campaign didn't comment enough on that issue that matters a lot to the average American person, the average American voter, and Trump did. Now, again, we all knew he was full of shit when he was saying what he was saying, but that's the main reason why people voted for him, and now he's saying he can't do it.
Including on groceries, saying, look, they got them up. I'd like to bring them down. It's hard to bring things down once they're up. It's very hard, but I think that they will. I think that energy is going to bring them down. I think a better supply chain is going to bring them down. Throughout the campaign, Trump repeatedly vowed lower prices.
But prices will come down. You just watch. They'll come down.
See, he promised the American people, I will lower the prices. And now he's like, well, I don't know. It's going to be kind of hard. You voted for this fucking clown. So while, regardless of how you feel about Gavin Newsom and Biden, again, not big fans of the guys myself, but regardless of how you feel about those two, they are here in California trying to find solutions to the problems that people are facing in regards to these wildfires, and Donald Trump ain't doing shit. So does he really have any place to be throwing jabs at them and talking about how horrible of a job they're doing? Because so far, he's done diddly squat in regards to it, or even commented on doing anything about it. And meanwhile, they're actually out there on the ground making steps to try and deal with these problems. It's ridiculous that he feels like he has any position to be shitting on them when he's doing fuck all. Absolutely ridiculous.